2020 pre-season prediction. I am your host Kix, and with me is Spotify95. Hey, Spotify95.
Hello.
So, you know what we're doing today? We're going to predict how the season's going to go before pre-season has even started, which is a bit, well, we don't even know what the cars are going to look like.
Yeah, you could say that.
Well, the first team that will launch their car on February the 11th. That's Ferrari. I can probably, with 95% certainty, say that their car is going to be red.
Yeah, if it wasn't, then it would be a big surprise. I'm
Indeed.
kind of imagining it to be kind of similar to last year, but
Maybe with mission win now, because the mission is to win now. Or as,
well,
or with Sebastian, mission spin now.
yeah, they've got a chance. They've got a chance.
Yes, Mercedes and Ferrari seem to be saying that Ferrari's engine is better than Mercedes this year. Apparently, it goes Ferrari, Renault, Mercedes, and then Honda in terms of engine power.
Well, there's not just an engine in an F1 car, you know.
Indeed, there's a chassis, there's the wheels and everything. You need wheels mainly,
Yeah,
as well as an engine and everything else. Gearboxes are important. Also, drivers. You need drivers.
indeed.
So on February the 11th, it's Ferrari launching their car, and then February the 12th is Red Bull and Renault launching their car.
Nice. So 2 launches in one day.
Yes. And what Red Bull usually do is they usually have a one-off livery on the launch, and then when they go to testing, they're back to their usual livery.
Yes, I did
So,
read.
yeah, last year they had that black and white camo livery, was it?
That's right, I did read about that last year, and then noticed
Yeah,
that they then changed back to their normal livery. So
yeah,
we'll wait and see what happens, but I doubt it'll be
yeah.
that much different to previous years.
Every year they have a one-off livery for the launch, and then everyone's saying how they should use that, and then everyone's disappointed when they go back to the normal livery. And then Renault will probably be yellow as usual.
Well, they were yellow last year, so
Or they could go back to that 2006, was it, where it was yellow and blue?
well, I can't remember that far back. I
Alonso
mean, that was 14 years
2006.
ago.
True. And then February the 13th will be McLaren launching their car. Will they go for the orange as they did last time, or orange and blue? Or will they go, I don't think it'll be black like the McLaren Honda, because they're now McLaren Renault.
Yes, because I do remember that they were black when they were McLaren Honda. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
But I assume that now, because they're Renault, they'll want to stay away from the colour scheme they had back in the days of Honda to avoid
Mhm.
confusion. Or
And next season there will be McLaren Mercedes once again.
oh, now that
Indeed.
I didn't know.
Yes, McLaren will have the Mercedes engine next season.
Which is 2021, correct?
Yes, 2021. It will be McLaren Mercedes,
Interesting.
just like it was in 2012. And,
Yeah, I remember that one well.
and then Valentine's Day, February the 14th, will be not Toro Rosso, Alfa Tauri, and Mercedes.
I think I'm going to have to train myself to remember the AlphaTauri name, but
Yeah, AlphaTauri's it's Toro Rosso have changed the name, and next season Racing Point will be known as Aston Martin. Then it'll be interesting to see whether Aston Martin Red Bull will just go back to Red Bull or not.
Well, that would make sense because otherwise there would be an awful lot of confusion between the two teams, and that wouldn't be a good thing for the viewers of
Yeah.
the program and following the season. So,
So the reason why Toro Rosso was called Toro Rosso is because Toro Rosso is Red Bull in Italian,
that makes sense.
and AlphaTauri is a company owned by Red Bull, so it's still Red Bull's sister team. So their livery will probably be similar to Red Bull, but maybe the slightly different blue. Because Toro Rosso used to have a lighter blue, so AlphaTauri will probably be the same. And then Mercedes, I'm 95% sure, will be silver.
Well, they were the last few years, so again, why change?
Oh, Mercedes are the Silver Arrows.
Yeah, I knew that nickname.
Hmm. And then February the 17th, we have Racing Point and Williams launching their car. Racing Point, they have sponsors that force them to make their car pink.
Ooh.
So when they become Aston Martin, I don't think they'll be pink anymore, but they probably
Nope.
will be pink this season if they have the same sponsor.
That's correct, because last year they were pink as well, so I don't see any changes happening. But as
Mm-hmm.
for 2021, well, anything could happen between now and then, so it's just a case of whatever happens, we'll know about closer to the time. But
And
for
then
2020 at least,
yeah,
Racing Point are going to be the same as before.
probably yes. And then we have Williams, which I believe are still sponsored by Rocket, so they might have a similar car to last year, or they might try and spice it up a bit. I missed their 2014 one when they were sponsored by Martini, but Martini said they no longer want to be part of Formula One, which is a shame.
Well,
That was a good car, the 2014 Williams.
unfortunately, the 2019 Williams was rather disappointing, certainly regarding performance anyway. So,
And hello, Lydia, in the stream chat. And yes, I did make this spreadsheet. So yeah, anyway, yeah. And then on February the 19th, Alfa Romeo and Haas will be launching their cars. Now, Haas last season were gold and black because they were sponsored by Rich Energy, but Rich Energy no longer sponsoring them, so they pretty much have freedom. They might go back to how they originally were with the black, white, and red.
that would be intriguing.
Indeed. And then Alfa Romeo, probably the same as last season with the red and white.
Yeah, I remember them.
Okay. And then the driver lineup for 2020, there are only two differences to last season, how it ended. So Mercedes, their driver lineup is Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas.
Which is exactly the same as what it was last year and
The
the
year
year before
before,
that as well.
indeed.
Unchanged since 2017.
Yes, that was after Rosberg retired after winning the championship in 2016. Hamilton, of course, he has the chance to equal the record for most championships this season. He can get his seventh, equaling Schumacher's record.
He might do. It just depends.
Indeed, depends. Their main rivals will probably be Ferrari, who have Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc.
Especially if the Ferrari engine is more powerful, as you say.
Yes.
But last year, earlier on in the season, there were issues with team orders, and they need to manage their drivers if they're to make sure that they don't end up losing points against each other, because ultimately they need to take the points away from other operators rather than themselves.
True. And if I remember correctly, at the start of last season, Ferrari had a slightly stronger engine than Mercedes, but then during the summer break, where there's a 3 week break. After that, I believe Mercedes had the better engine because they worked on the engine, whereas Ferrari, their engine didn't improve as much as Mercedes did.
But then again, wasn't Ferrari stronger in a straight line anyway in circuits such as Belgium Spa?
Could be the case, yeah. So the engine advantage doesn't necessarily mean you've got a better car. Like
Indeed.
Sebastian Vettel, Mr. Spinala.
Yes. That was mostly in 2018, though, wasn't it?
There was quite a few in 2019 as well. And also, Vettel and Leclerc crashed together.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that Silverstone, was it? Or was that Vettel and Verstappen at Silverstone?
It was Vettel and Verstappen at Silverstone,
Yeah.
and then Vettel and Leclerc at Brazil.
Brazil.
So, yes, there
Mm.
have been incidents in the past. Let's hope there's none in 2020.
Yes, this could be a five-way fight for the title between Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel, Leclerc, and Verstappen. The Red Bull's driver lineup is Max Verstappen and Alexander Albon.
And certainly last year, Max Verstappen was the stronger of the two drivers. I mean, last year at the start, they had Pierre Gasly as the
Indeed.
second Red Bull driver, but during the summer break, they changed to Alexander Albon, and it seems as though they've stuck with Alexander Albon for 2020. It'll be interesting to
Yes.
see how he performs.
So Alpha Tauri contains two drivers who have both been demoted from Red Bull,
Correct, because
but we'll get onto that later.
yes,
Yeah, so I believe the reason Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull was because Red Bull built the car around Verstappen, so it wasn't really a car that Ricciardo liked to drive.
well, that one I didn't know about.
Mm-hmm. And McLaren are sticking with the driver lineup from last year as well. They have Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris.
Well, if I recall correctly, they didn't actually do too badly last year. So
They
I suppose if you've got something that works, you might as well stick with it and
Yes, McLaren
hope that
finished
it works again this year.
McLaren finished P4 in the constructors last year, I believe. I believe this is in order of where they came. So Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren. It's not bad at all.
Not bad indeed.
And then Renault they have the first of our two driver differences from last year. They have Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon is back in Formula One after being Mercedes reserve driver for the last 2 seasons.
One season, I
One
believe,
season or two.
because in
Probably one.
2018, he was replaced by Lance Stroll in Racing Point.
Was it
Uh,
Ocon in 2018? Ocon who was being lapped by Verstappen and caused him to lose the lead.
That's correct. That was at the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2018. So he
Indeed,
got demoted out, and
became Mercedes' third driver but wasn't used.
correct.
And then,
And
if you continue, yeah,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
AlphaTauri. They have two drivers who have been demoted from Red Bull before, Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat,
that is correct.
the
Pierre
torpedo.
Gasly, Pierre Gasly started off in Red Bull for half a season in 2019, but got demoted, and Danny Kvyat was in Red Bull a few years ago, and they
was
got demoted halfway through as well.
he was replaced by Verstappen, who ended up winning his very first race for Red Bull in Spain. It was
Correct.
Spain 2016 because Hamilton and Rosberg crashed into each other on the first lap.
Yes, I remember that.
And then he was demoted again back into Formula 2. And then last season he came back into Toro Rosso, it was called last season. Now it's AlphaTauri.
Well, it's been called Toro Rosso for quite a few seasons, so
Yeah.
we'll have to remember the change and hopefully not get too confused by it.
And Daniel Kvyat last season got Toro Rosso's second ever podium, I believe it was.
I'm trying to think where that was.
Germany, with all the
Oh yes,
craziness, yeah.
because it was a wet circuit back then, and
Hamilton,
drama ensued basically.
Hamilton with the
Hamilton had an
50-second pit
incident.
stop.
Hamilton had an incident. Bottas crashed out. Leclerc crashed out.
And that race was won by Max Verstappen, and Vettel came from last to second.
Indeed, I was just about to say that. P20 to P2. Not bad at all, if I say so.
Indeed. And then Racing Point have Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll.
Which is unchanged from last season. Although the
Yes,
season before that, in 2018, back when it was called Force India, it was Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. Although, of course, in 2019, Esteban Ocon had a year out and was Mercedes reserve driver because Lance Stroll took his place
indeed.
when moving from Williams across to Racing Point.
Esteban Ocon did say that he thought people would forget about him during his year from Formula One, but he's glad that he's back because, yeah, he thought people would forget and he wouldn't get to race in Formula One again.
Well, let's see what happens in 2020 when he
Yeah.
does have a place in Formula One.
And Lance Stroll, his father, Lawrence Stroll, owns Racing Point, and he recently bought, I think it's between 10 and 20% stake in Aston Martin. So next season, Racing Point are changing their name again to Aston Martin.
Interesting.
Red Bull, of course, are sponsored by Aston Martin, so we'll see if that sponsorship is withdrawn.
Or if any other name changes come to place in light
Indeed.
of this.
Like last season, Sauber became Alfa Romeo. And speaking of Alfa Romeo, they keep the same driver lineup from last season as well, with Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi.
They were solid performers last year, weren't they?
They were, well, they finished third from last behind Racing Point. The two teams that performed worse than them was Haas, who have Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen, same as last year, and of course Williams, who have George Russell and Nicholas Latifi.
Well, I remember that Williams didn't perform very well last year, and
They got 1 point.
And that was thanks to the
German Grand
race
Prix.
in Germany where there was lots of mayhem and chaos. And had
Yes,
that not been the case, then unfortunately Williams in 2019 would have been a team to score absolutely 0 points at all, which is a bit of a
indeed.
shame if you ask me.
So that point scorer was Robert Kubica, who has been replaced with Formula 2 driver Nicholas Latifi, who steps up. But George Russell did say he would rather score 0 points than score 1 point. He would rather score 0 points than have one lucky point. So yeah.
Well,
He
I
said
suppose I can see where he came from
he
because
said he wants to earn the points from skill and having a good car, not just because other drivers crash out.
that's correct. Because of course, other drivers may not crash out under normal circumstances, and therefore the points would not be won anyway.
Indeed.
So it's always best to show that you're capable of winning them rather than just by fluke winning them, if you know what I mean.
And so, during pre-season testing last year, Williams arrived late to testing, which is one of the reasons why their car wasn't as good. They didn't have as much time to test. So hopefully they'll make testing in time this year. That would be a step forward at least.
And hopefully that will also mean improved performance as well during the 2020 season.
Also, Haas got their worst result in their short history, and they said it's because the drivers said that the car didn't feel good. Like they had this upgrade for Belgium, I think it was, and the drivers said they didn't like the upgrade, but the car was faster with the upgrade than without. So they thought, well, it's faster, so it must be a good upgrade. And then the following races, they discovered that actually the drivers were right, and it actually wasn't a good upgrade. So then they ended up, after a few races, reverting back to the old. They ended up undoing the upgrade, which made it faster. It just happened that the upgrade was faster for Belgium, but it wasn't actually a good upgrade at all.
Probably due to straight line speed being so important. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do remember last year that certainly at some points the two Haas cars were both running different setups
Yeah,
to test out the upgrades and, of course, how they didn't work very well in this case.
yeah. And this season, we will have, I believe it's the record for the most races in a season. I think the previous record was 21, and this season there will be 22. Although the Chinese Grand Prix is under doubt because of the coronavirus. So they are monitoring the coronavirus, and they might cancel the Chinese Grand Prix completely or postpone it.
Indeed, because you don't want a major sporting event taking place when there's a national outbreak, so to
Indeed.
say, going on and potentially causing problems there.
I know that the Formula E race in China was already been postponed, and they replaced it with a race in New York, I believe it was. They replaced it with. So instead of going to China, they had an extra race in New York. Because they usually have a race in New York, but I think they brought it forward to replace the Chinese one.
Although in the case of Formula One, they'll probably just
They'll probably
either
just remove
postpone
it.
it, move it back, or
Yeah,
just remove it from the calendar and go back to 21 races rather than 22.
yes. And we have two new races on the calendar this season. We have Vietnam and we have the Netherlands. So Max Verstappen's home races on the calendar this season.
Nice. And it'll be interesting to see how both of those get on.
Indeed.
Certainly regarding the new tracks. Although I do remember that the German Grand Prix has been removed from the calendar this
Once,
year.
once again, yeah, it's usually 1 year on, 1 year off, pretty much. Although I think they should remove the French Grand Prix.
Well, after reviews of what happened, because obviously I wasn't able to see it live, but from the highlights and the news stories I read
It's
up on,
one of the most
it
boring
wasn't
races,
the it wasn't the greatest, was it?
indeed. Also, yeah. Also, China's actually not that good of a race either, usually. Are you ready to go for the predictions now? You have your section where you can type in. Well, so we start with the Constructor Championship. Where do you think the teams will finish?
Well, I've got a couple of predictions.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting typing mine already. I think it's safe to say we can review these predictions at the end of the season, as of course. I believe Mercedes are the stronger team. That they'll probably win again. And then I'm not quite sure.
This is where it gets a bit more difficult.
After the top four, yeah. Will it probably be? Although apparently Renault have a better engine than Mercedes. Apparently it's Ferrari, Renault, Mercedes, and then Honda.
I'm going to go for Renault for P4.
Renault. Yeah.
Because
Renault
with
and McLaren have the same engine. Yeah. It's McLaren,
and
Renault.
with Esteban Ocon in the lineup as well, I reckon Renault are going to go quite strongly.
Mm-hmm. And then do we go for Haas or Racing Point for P6? I'm definitely thinking Haas will improve. But then there's Alfa Romeo. I don't see Williams getting more than last, unfortunately.
I was going to say that as well.
I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I see Williams P10 again, unfortunately.
And I reckon Alpha might be P9.
That's what I was thinking, but then I don't know what order the other three will be in. Alpha, Tauri.
What have I got left? I've done P1 through to P4. I'm
I
going to
think
say
maybe
McLaren is going to
Haas,
be P5
Racing
because they're
Point,
still good.
and Alfa
And
Romeo, I think.
that leaves me AlphaTauri, Racing Point, and Alpha.
Oh, you've got an Alfa Romeo P9, I've put them P8.
So that means that my P8 is going to be Haas.
Ooh, you've got Haas P8, I've put them P7.
I'm going for Haas P8, AlphaTauri P6,
Alpha Tauri P6, I've put them P8.
and then Racing Point
Yeah, so
P7.
we've got the same P's. We've got the same top three and the same last place, and then the rest is where it's different.
Because, well, Mercedes worked very well as a team last year,
True.
and I'm sure that
German efficiency and engineering.
assuming that their engine isn't really slow compared to other teams, then I'm sure they'll still be top. Ferrari
Welcome
and
to the stream, DJ Mindiz.
Ferrari and Red Bull, I reckon Red Bull are going to be 3 and Ferrari are going to be 2, mainly because I don't know how
Yeah, I see
long term
Mercedes.
Albon is perform.
I see Mercedes dominating, and then I see Vettel, Leclerc, and Verstappen also fighting. But because Ferrari have, well, Red Bull only really have Verstappen that I see fighting for the lead, whereas Ferrari have Vettel and Leclerc, so I see Ferrari ahead of Red Bull just for that reason.
Indeed, because
If
in previous years, Ferrari have tended to have a number one driver and a number two driver, where their number one was Vettel and their number two was Raikkonen before he moved to Alfa Romeo.
indeed,
Although,
like
strangely, this year they had two number one drivers.
yeah. Like
Because
if Red Bull had Daniel Ricciardo instead of Albon, I could potentially see Red Bull as P2, Ferrari as P3. But
indeed,
so it's not the car that's putting them P3; it's the driver, it's their second driver. I think Ferrari have the strongest second driver. If they have one at all, they're basically two number one drivers. Yeah.
Indeed, because ultimately you've got to bring good points in with both drivers, and
Yeah.
a, a number two driver that's coming in constantly, say P3 or P4, is going to be better in the statistics than, say, a number two driver that's always
P
rounding off the top three
P5,
teams coming in
P6.
P6.
Yeah. Like Albon and Gasly did last year, they finished
That,
P6 a lot of the time. Yeah.
in fact, there were some races whereby the second Red Bull driver didn't actually make the top six.
Mm.
In fact, there was one, I think was it Hungary last year that Max Verstappen ended up lapping his teammate?
It could have been, yeah.
I'm sure there was one where he lapped his teammate.
I think that might have been as well. So my constructors' championship, I predict, will be Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, Renault, Racing Point, Haas, Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, and Williams. And you've gone
And
for,
and which one have I not even put in? Ah, there we go.
yeah,
Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, Renault, McLaren, although I reckon it might be close between Renault and McLaren.
it was last season if I remember correctly.
Then AlphaTauri, which might or might not be close to McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
Then Racing Point. Then Haas and Alpha, which again there might be a bit of a battle between those. And then Williams. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they won't be as bad as they were last year,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not very nice as a team to be consistently getting P19 or P20 or the equivalent after retirements have been
Yeah.
factored in.
And now we get to the interesting one. What do you predict the Drivers' Championship will be like? Wow.
This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one.
I predict Hamilton will win his 7th championship.
I was kind of going to say that as well. Um,
Let's get my top 6 out of the way first, I think.
I do think that Leclerc will outperform Vettel, given the opportunity, of course.
That's what I've put as well. My top 6 is Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Verstappen, Vettel, Albon. I believe that does give Ferrari the advantage.
Oh, I've just gone off the table. Well, if I knew any shortcuts on how to enter the data in, then yeah. Will Bottas get P2? It's going to be close
I
between
believe
him, Leclerc,
he
and
would.
Verstappen.
And then we've got McLaren and Renault, or maybe I see
I think he will.
Carlos. Or no, I think maybe Lando will get ahead of
Um,
Carlos. Lando Norris,
I
Daniel
know.
Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon P9, and then Carlos Sainz. It's Racing Point Haas.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I'm thinking who will come out top between Verstappen and Leclerc, because
Nicholas.
I know Verstappen is certainly a good driver, but
So,
with Ferrari having more straight line speed, but then
but
but
then
then
they ha-
again,
but that's
there's
just
also
what they're saying. They haven't actually testing hasn't actually begun yet. That begins next week or the week after.
and then of course you've also got what happened last year with the priority thing between the two Ferrari drivers. And I still reckon, though, that had the priority sorted out at the very start of the season, then ultimately Leclerc might have overtaken Verstappen for P3.
Also, this season, I believe the teams get less testing during pre-season. It used to be
Ooh.
5 days 1 week, 5 days another, whereas I think they changed it to 4 days 1 week and 4 days another. So yeah, they get 2 less days of testing during pre-season testing.
Oh, 1 moment. Hello? Okay, I won't be that long. She's just gone downstairs. Yes. Oh.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
You're gonna have to edit that out.
There won't be any editing. It's going straight onto YouTube unedited.
Oh, no, you're gonna have to do that.
All I heard was she's downstairs or something like that. Nothing else was heard.
Oh, that's fine.
So yeah, it's unedited. It's going in. Even what I'm saying now.
You gotta do it. But let's get back to this again.
Yeah.
There's probably gonna be a ton of drivers at the bottom here with very little in the way of points.
I've got P11 to P18. I'm not sure what order in at all, but I've got to do it so that my constructors make sense though as well. So I'll probably have an AlphaTauri driver last, maybe Gasly and Kvyat.
I have no idea what's I have no idea what's
Daniel Kvyat. Then maybe have Gasly. Thing is, I don't really like Roman Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen. I don't really like the experienced drivers, but I don't really rate that lineup, especially compared to maybe Renault, maybe even Racing Point. Sergio Perez, I'd say, is better than the Haas
so.
drivers.
What did I put as my constructors? Alpha P9. That's. I'm
And
gonna say.
after McLaren,
Um,
yeah, Daniel Ricciardo. Oh, I've already put him P8. Okay, so
oh,
then. Yeah, I've already done Renault. So that'll be. Oh, wait, if I'm putting. Oh, that was that.
hmm.
Yeah, that works. Kimi Raikkonen,
Probably P15 for me.
and then Antonio Giovinazzi.
Who did I put for 8? Haas. Um. Oh, it's moving when I scroll.
Yep. Then I've got 2 teams left. Who have I got left? Racing Point
I put.
and Racing Point and Haas. I don't really put Racing Point. Sergio Perez. Then I would put Lance Stroll. Kevin. There we go. I've got my driver prediction all
Race.
sorted. That's done. Right.
Oh.
Almost completely done now. I see you've got Perez P12, I'll put in P11.
I think he's gonna do okay, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How far have I
What are you doing in my swamp?
Who's going to perform better? Gasly. I'm going to say Kvyat is going to be 13.
So P1
Pierre
to
Gasly's going to be P10.
P1 to P6 we've got exactly the same. P19 and 20 we've got exactly the same.
And then that leaves
Then
McLaren and Renault.
it's
McLaren and Renault. Who have I got left?
it's really
Sorry,
the
Norris.
midfield. It's really the midfield where we differ, because the top 6 and the bottom 2 we've got exactly the same.
And then for Renault we have Ricardo and Ocon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say.
See, you got P4, you put Renault, yeah.
Ricardo.
Oh, we got P8 the same.
And then I'm not even looking at yours at the moment.
Interesting.
And then McLaren.
Interesting how you've got
I've just messed up.
yeah, you put Renault P4 in your constructors, but then in your drivers you're more like P5. You probably want them P7 and 9, really. Ocon, you've got P11 for Renault as well.
I still have a question mark over him, so I'm going to put him there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you've got him in P10 and P11.
Him there.
Gonna put him in P8 as well.
Nope. I'm going to put Lando Norris just here.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that
Carlos Sainz P8
is going to be in P8, and that is my list complete. For now, I haven't checked to see if that makes sense or not.
DJ Mendes said Hamilton master race. Yeah.
Does that make sense, what I've just wrote?
Yeah. So DJ Mendes said Minion Masters or Riot, but there will be no Minion Masters tonight, my friend. Maybe after stream, but not during stream. So
After the stream, I might be available, so it just depends.
So my prediction for the Drivers' Championship is Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, Alexander Albon, and then, this is where it gets interesting, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Kimi Raikkonen, Romain Grosjean, Pierre Gasly, Antonio Giovinazzi, Daniel Kvyat, George Russell, and Nicholas Latifi.
What did I put? I put for my prediction Lewis Hamilton followed by Valtteri Bottas followed by Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, Alexander Albon, then Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon making the top 10. Then Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Danny Kvyat, Kevin Magnussen, Kimi Raikkonen, Roman Grosjean, Antonio Giovinazzi, Lance Stroll, George Russell, and Nicholas Latifi.
So those are our predictions. We will come back to them at the end of the season. We'll see how many we got right. And we will probably try and predict each race, maybe.
I might check during the season as well. I'm not going to edit, of course, during the season.
No editing allowed, yeah.
I'm just going to keep an eye on it and see how close, if at all, my predictions are to being correct.
Indeed.
Not that they probably will be outside of the top 6.
A top 6 and the bottom 2, maybe. The middle between P7 and P18 is where we differ.
Yeah, that's the question mark sort of area.
Yeah, Lando Norris all the way down to Danny Kvyat, or for you, it's Daniel Ricciardo all the way down to Lance Stroll. So
Yeah, I'm
I
just looking at your list as well.
I put Norris P7, you put in P11. I put Kvyat P18, and you put in P13.
I, I was just about to say I doubt I'm gonna see Perez being overtaken by Lance Stroll, but then again, I just saw that you put Lance Stroll at 12th, but
Mhm.
then again, I don't think they're gonna finish close together like that. I reckon
True.
there may be a couple of cars in between them,
Hmm.
or in my case, about 6.
So that's the end. Yeah,
Well, that's our predictions.
those are our predictions,
Let's see exactly how they fare out.
and let's see how they do at pre-season testing as well. But then, of course, you're not really going to show your full strength at pre-season testing, are you?
No, the
Like, Williams
the
could be
main
fastest in pre-season and then end up last.
the main the main sort of seeing out how the performance is going to be.
Hmm.
In order to judge how performance is going to be, it's more than likely going to be the first race or two, or
Yeah.
certainly after the first two qualifyings.
Also,
That's when you'll see.
pre-season is at Spain, and Spain doesn't actually tell you much about the car anyway.
No,
It's one of the few tracks where you drive around it, you don't really learn anything about the car, so it's just basically just seeing how whether your engine wear and that is good, tire wear.
is
Like,
Spain on the actual calendar?
yes, it's round 6, I believe, and then
Round
it goes
6.
Spain, and then it's followed by Monaco.
Oh yes, I remember. I remember now.
Yeah, and then in testing, drivers usually put in between 100 and 200 laps a day. And then over 8 days, that's between 800 and 1,600 laps over the whole of testing.
Wow,
Drivers
that's
find
quite a lot.
drivers find it really boring.
Mm.
100 to 200 laps a day, and then also last season during the first 2 days of testing, there was actually snow on the circuit, and I believe one team went out in the snow.
Well, that's certainly interesting and challenging.
It wasn't one of the
That's
top
what I'd
teams.
say.
It was one of the midfield teams, and they were the only team to go out that day in the snow. And everyone said, "So this team put in the fastest lap time during the snow, so this car is the better during the snow." But they were the only car that went out in the snow.
And also, it's very, very, very unlikely that they will actually hold a race if it is snowing.
True. Yeah.
A bit like if there's excessive water on the track, then even with the correct tyres, the cars are just going to slip slide everywhere and it's just not going to work.
Yeah. So those are our predictions. We'll see how they will. We'll probably check every few races during the season as well.
Good idea.
Yeah. So I have been Kix, and this has been Spotify 95.
Indeed.
And thank you for watching, and goodbye, my friends.
Good night.
Goodbye.